I knew that I had a purpose in life, and I was determined to fulfill it. I had overcome the challenges of my past, and I was ready to embrace the future with open arms. I felt a sense of gratitude for the lessons I had learned and the people who had supported me along the way. I knew that life would always have its ups and downs, but I was ready to face them with courage and determination. I had learned to trust myself and my instincts, and I knew that I had the strength to overcome any obstacles that lay ahead. I walked away from the cemetery, feeling a sense of freedom and liberation. I knew that I had a bright future ahead of me, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms. I felt a sense of gratitude for the lessons I had learned and the people who had supported me along the way. As I walked down the street, I felt a sense of excitement and anticipation. I knew that I had a long journey ahead of me, but I was ready to face it with courage and determination. I had learned to trust myself and my instincts, and I knew that I had the strength to overcome any challenges that lay ahead. I looked up at the sky, feeling a sense of connection to the universe and all its wonders. I felt a sense of gratitude for the lessons I had learned and the people who had supported me along the way. I knew that I had a bright future ahead of me, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms. I decided it was time to confront her. I wanted to take back what was rightfully mine and ensure that she faced the consequences of her actions. I devised a plan with Mara's help. We gathered evidence of Lena's financial mismanagement and her illegal eviction of me from our family home. The day of the confrontation arrived. I knocked on Lena's apartment door, my heart pounding in my chest. She opened the door, her eyes widening in shock when she saw me. "Ella? What are you doing here?" she stammered. "I've come to talk, Lena," I said, my voice steady. She reluctantly let me in. Her apartment was small and cluttered. I could see the stress etched on her face. "I know what you did, Lena," I began. "You kicked me out of our family home, and you squandered our father's inheritance." Lena looked down, avoiding my gaze. "I'm sorry, Ella," she whispered. "I was wrong." "Sorry isn't good enough," I replied, my voice cold. "You left me homeless and alone. You took everything from me." "I know," Lena said, tears streaming down her face. I was blinded by greed. I didn't think about the consequences. I handed her the evidence we had gathered. "You're going to pay for what you did, Lena," I said. "You're going to face legal consequences for your actions." Lena looked at the evidence, her face pale. "Please, Ella, don't do this," she pleaded. "I'm already ruined. I have nothing left." "You should have thought of that before you betrayed me," I replied, my voice hard. "You deserve to face the consequences of your actions." I left Lena's apartment, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. I had finally stood up for myself, but it had come at a cost. My sister was facing financial ruin and legal consequences for her actions. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of pity for her. I returned to Mara's house and told her what had happened. She hugged me and said, "You did the right thing, Ella. You stood up for yourself, and you made sure that justice was served." I nodded, feeling a sense of closure. I had finally taken back what was rightfully mine, and I had ensured that Lena faced the consequences of her actions. I felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. I was ready to start a new chapter in my life, free from the toxic influences of my past. Lena faced legal consequences for her actions. The evidence I had gathered was enough to prove her financial mismanagement and illegal eviction of me from our family home. She was ordered to pay restitution, and I regained control of my father's assets. With the assets back in my possession, I decided to use them to rebuild my life and help others who had faced similar challenges. I started a nonprofit organization to provide support and resources to those who had been wronged by their families. I felt a sense of purpose and fulfillment in helping others. One day, I visited my father's grave. I stood there, feeling a sense of closure and peace. I had avenged his memory and ensured that justice was served. I whispered a silent prayer, thanking him for watching over me and guiding me through the darkest times of my life. As I stood there, I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned to see Mara standing beside me, a smile on her face. "You've come a long way, Ella," she said, her voice filled with pride. I nodded, tears welling up in my eyes. "Thank you, Mara," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "I couldn't have done it without you." Mara hugged me and said, "You're stronger than you think, Ella. You have a bright future ahead of you." I smiled, feeling a sense of gratitude and love for the woman who had become my mentor and confidant. I knew that I had a long journey ahead of me, but I was ready to face it with courage and determination. I started a new chapter in my life, free from the toxic influences of my past. I had learned valuable lessons and was determined to live a life that honored my father's legacy. I felt a renewed sense of hope and purpose, and I knew that I had the strength to overcome any challenges that lay ahead. As I walked away from my father's grave, I felt a sense of peace and contentment. I knew that he was watching over me, and I felt his presence in the gentle breeze that rustled the leaves of the trees. I looked up at the sky, feeling a sense of connection to the universe and all its wonders. My name is Ella, and I am a young woman who has recently lost my father. The pain of his loss is still fresh, and I am struggling to cope with it. My father was my rock, my support, and my confidant. Now I am left with a gaping hole in my heart, and I don't know how to fill it. My older sister, Lena, has always been the opposite of me. She is ambitious, ruthless, and driven by greed. After our father's death, she quickly took control of our family home and assets. I was still in shock, grieving, and unable to fight back. One day, she came to me with a cold, calculating look in her eyes. "Ella, you need to leave," Lena said, her voice devoid of any emotion. "What? Why?" I stammered, taken aback by her demand. "This house is mine now," Lena declared. "You have no right to be here." "But this is our family home," I protested. "Where am I supposed to go?" "That's not my problem," Lena replied dismissively. "You have until tomorrow to pack your things and leave." I was devastated. My own sister had turned against me, and I had no one to turn to. I packed my belongings and left the house, tears streaming down my face. I had no idea where to go or what to do. I wandered the streets aimlessly, feeling lost and alone. As I walked, I encountered a group of men who seemed to be eyeing me suspiciously. I quickened my pace, but they followed me. My heart raced as I realized I was in danger. Just as one of the men reached out to grab me, a voice called out, "Leave her alone." I turned to see an older woman with a stern expression on her face, standing between me and the men. The men hesitated for a moment, then slinked away, muttering under their breath. The woman turned to me and asked, "Are you all right, dear?" I nodded, tears welling up in my eyes. She gently took my arm and led me to a nearby bench. "My name is Mura," she said. "What's your name?" "Ella," I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. "What happened, Ella? Why are you out here alone?" Mara asked, concern evident in her voice. I told her about my father's death, my sister's betrayal, and my current predicament. Mara listened intently, her eyes filled with compassion. When I finished, she said, "You can stay with me, Ella. I have a spare room in my house. You're welcome to stay there until you get back on your feet." I was overwhelmed by her kindness. "Thank you, Mara," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "I don't know how to repay you." "You don't have to," Mara replied. "Just promise me that you'll take care of yourself and never give up." I nodded, tears streaming down my face. Mara took me to her home, a cozy little cottage on the outskirts of town. She showed me to my room, which was small but comfortable. I felt a sense of relief wash over me as I realized I had a safe place to stay. Over the next few weeks, Mara became my mentor and confidant. She taught me valuable life skills, helped me find a job, and supported me as I tried to rebuild my life. I was grateful for her guidance and friendship, and I felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. As I settled into my new life, I couldn't help but think about my sister and the pain she had caused me. I knew I had to confront her and take back what was rightfully mine. With Mara's help, I began to devise a plan to ensure that Lena faced the consequences of her actions. Under Mara's guidance, I began to learn valuable life skills. She taught me how to budget, how to cook, and how to stand up for myself. I felt my self-confidence growing, and I became more self-reliant. I found a job at a local bookstore, and I started saving money. I felt a sense of accomplishment and pride in my newfound independence. One day, as I was walking home from work, I saw a familiar face in the crowd. It was Lena. She looked disheveled and stressed. I followed her from a distance, curious about what had become of her. I watched as she entered a run-down apartment building. I couldn't believe my eyes. This was the same sister who had kicked me out of our family home, claiming it as her own. I decided to investigate further. I discovered that Lena had squandered our father's inheritance on frivolous expenses and bad investments. She was now facing financial ruin and had been forced to sell our family home. I felt a mix of anger and satisfaction. She had finally gotten a taste of her own medicine.